This is the Louie T Network. So it's Thursday, and you're looking to solve your football fix. Well, don't watch me. Watch TV. Wait a minute. But I'm on TV. So watch me. That's right. I'm your man, Louie T, and this is Pro Football Central Weekly, the Thursday edition of week number 6. Thank you for joining me here on the program. Lot to get to. It's Thursday, as I just mentioned, which means it's football day. And so we've got some Thursday night football action coming our way tonight. Chicago Bears hosting the winless New York Football Giants. G-Man! Who would have thought 6 weeks into the National Football League, we'd be talking about the New York Giants not having a win, chasing after their first victory of the season. But as the old saying goes, that's why we play the game. And so this Giants team is struggling. And you look at it from the Bears' perspective, hey, they've hit a little rough patch of their own. Bears come into the game at 3-2, winners of 3 straight to start the season. But since that 3-0 start, they've dropped 2 straight, including a game at home last week to the New Orleans Saints. So Bears looking to right the ship, get back to their winning ways. Meanwhile, the New York Giants are just looking to get a win, their first of the season. They just want to get in the win column. They could care less who it comes against, how they get it. They just want to get it and get it out of the way. And so they're hungry. And this is a huge game for both teams involved. Probably a little bit bigger than you would think. If you're the Giants, as crazy as this sounds, you're 0-5. Things aren't going right. You're banged up. You've got injuries all over the place. As bad as your season has been to this point, you're only 2 games out of first place. Now, I know that sounds asinine, but just getting a win could mean everything for the New York Giants. Just getting one win could put the Giants back in a position where they could actually still not be dead yet. However, I caution all New York Giants fans by telling you this. If you think that the Giants are just going to wake up and start winning football games, you're sadly mistaken. This is not, I repeat, this is not 2007, the year when you started 0-2, you gave up 80 points in your first 2 outings, and then flipped the switch on and found a way to win the Super Bowl. This isn't that. This isn't 2011 when you went on a late season run, got it done, went to the Super Bowl, and again victimized the New England Patriots. This isn't that. This is a different club that isn't as talented, that isn't as healthy, that doesn't have the weapons that you've had in the past. This is a decimated New York Giants football team that isn't playing good football right now, that doesn't have enough pieces to just flip on the light switch as they have in the past. This is a team that is in trouble. And it is probably going to be highly unlikely that the New York Giants go on the road and get a win at Soldier Field versus the Chicago Bears. Now, hey, it can happen. But it's probably not going to happen. Here's why. The Chicago Bears come into this game equally desperate for a win. Look, this NFC North division is wide open. And the Bears started out hot. They started out like gangbusters, 3-0, atop this division, off and running. And then you lose 2 games in a row. One to Detroit on the road, the second being at home last week to the undefeated New Orleans Saints. So all of a sudden now, the Bears come into this game, and they need it just as bad as the Giants do. Packers are starting to pick things up. They're 2-2 on the season now. Detroit Lions, who beat this Bears team, they're 3-2 as well. They're just as dangerous as anyone else in this division. And don't count out the Minnesota Vikings. They won the last time they played a game. They had a bye last week. They're 1-3 on the season. They went out and got Josh Freeman. And so if Christian Ponder continues to struggle, they might have the answer at the quarterback position on their roster. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But you don't know. You're not sure. You're not sure if Josh Freeman is the missing link in Minnesota. And so if you're the Bears, you don't want to leave anything to chance. You don't want that margin of error that you have to shrink. You start losing games at home to winless teams, and all of a sudden, this season that looked so promising with a 3-0 start could be down spiraling in a tizzy. And so if you're the Bears, you've got an opportunity to beat a winless New York Giants team, a team that is struggling, a team that can't find their way, a team that's turning the football over, a team that's been decimated by injuries. You have an opportunity to take a team like that out behind the woodshed and take it to them. You got a chance to really take them behind the woodshed and just wax them. You got to do it. And so if you're the Bears, you can't waste an opportunity like the one they have tonight on Thursday Night Football at home to get a win. You get opportunities like this with a team reeling coming to your place. You got to take advantage. And so the Bears need this game just as bad as the Giants for their psyche. Because if they lose 3 straight, not to mention losing to a winless team that has not played good football all season long, that can't get out of their own way, that's been turning the football over, especially in the fourth quarter when they can ill afford to turn it over. If they lose to a team like that at home, what does that say about the Chicago Bears? So they need this game just as bad, if not worse, than the New York Giants, because they can't afford to lose this game, drop to 500 on the season, lose their grip on the lead in the NFC North, and give confidence to a winless New York Giants team. They can't afford to do that. They need, look, when it's all said and done at the end of the year, if the Bears don't win this division, because this thing is wide open in the NFC North, if the Bears don't end up victorious in this division, and they got to sneak in the back door with a wild card berth, they need to be able to look back on games like this and say, hey, we got this one done. It's an NFC game. And when they start looking at tiebreakers, they look at games like this one that you might forget about in Week 6 on Thursday Night Football that seemed meaningless at the time. That might be the game that tilts the Bears over the top and gets them into the postseason with a 10-6 mark. Or that could be the game that has them on the outside looking in at that same 10-6 mark, at that 9-7 mark. And so it's important for the Bears to get this one done. Look, watching this Bears team from the beginning of the season to now, I haven't been that impressed. And Brandon Marshall last week said, hey, I want the football more. He deserves it more. Alshon Jeffrey is starting to come on. He's emerging. I like what I see out of Alshon Jeffrey. This is what I was looking for, and this is what the Bears were looking for out of Alshon Jeffrey when they drafted him out of South Carolina. You know, over 200 yards receiving last week, about 9 or 10 grabs. He was everywhere. He was getting it done. He was snatching the football out of the air with his huge hands. That's what the Bears need from him. They've got weapons. This offensive line started out the season hot, sizzling hot. Now they're starting to cool off. They got to get back to protecting Jay Cutler. They got to get back to opening up holes for Matt Forte and Michael Bush in this Bears rushing attack. They have to get back to the fundamentals. You look at this defense, and to me, that's where it's at. Offensively for the Bears, it's where it's at because this defense shows up every week. Now, every week they might not force turnovers. Every week they might not score defensive touchdowns. What defense does? But this defense holds it down every single week. This offense for the Bears, it's where the questions are. Because I've asked this question since last year. Is this Bears offense capable of scoring 24 points without the assistance of this Bears defense? I asked them that question last week against New Orleans. The answer was no. They only could muster 18 without the help of the defense. They've got to be able to go out and get points on their own. And against this Giants team that isn't very good offensively nor defensively, I want to see if this Bears offensive attack can go out and get 21, 24, 27 without the help of the defense. Honestly, if I'm a Bears fan, for the sake of the psyche of this offense, I would love it if the Bears defense nor the special teams helped out in this game. Go out and beat the Giants offensively. Murder the Giants by scoring points, by Brandon Marshall going out and abusing those Giant corners in secondary. Go out and have Alshon Jeffrey build upon what he did last week against New Orleans. Have Martellus Bennett work the middle of the field. Get open, get loose against his ex-team from a season ago. Have Matt Forte running all over the place, catching screens, running slants, catching the football, running it out of the backfield. Have Michael Bush plowing through this Giants defense, the teeth of it. Have this offense show up and show out by themselves, by their lonesome. If I'm a Bears fan, that's what I would like to see. Now look, throughout the course of the year, you want your defense to help you. You want your defense to help you every week if you can get it. But guess what? It's not going to happen. Just like it didn't happen against New Orleans last week. You want your offense to be able to go out and manufacture points by itself. And if it can't do that, you can be in trouble. That happened to the Bears last season. It's happening again this year. This offense must rise to the occasion. Brandon Marshall has said he's going to wear green cleats tonight to raise awareness for mental illness. And so he's going to be fine. The NFL already told him, no, you cannot wear green cleats. He said, fine, I won't wear them. And then he gave him the okie doke. And he said, I'm going to wear them anyway. So he knows he'll have a nice pink slip in his locker come Wednesday of next week, fining him for his actions tonight. But he doesn't care. He makes enough money. He feels like it's a good cause. It's going to draw attention. Those cleats are going to be nice and loud tonight on Thursday Night Football. The commentators are going to bring it up, which is going to bring awareness to the cause that he's looking to bring awareness to. So it'll all work in Brandon Marshall's favor. Now he needs to go out and produce on the field. Jay Cutler needs to get him the football, needs to spread it around. They need to score points offensively. You look at it from the Giants' perspective and what they need to do. The Giants just need to play sound, fundamental football. And what I mean by that is they got to eliminate the penalties. They got to stop shooting themselves in the foot with turnovers at the most inopportune times. How about a football game where you don't turn it over, where Eli Manning doesn't surrender 3 interceptions, where Eli Manning doesn't throw it to the wrong color jersey twice, where you don't put it on the ground a couple of times from the running back position, where guys are catching the football on 3rd and 7 and not dropping it on 3rd and 8. The Giants just need to get back to the basics. Simple things like tackling a guy for a 3-yard gain when he catches it for a 3-yard gain and not allowing him to break a tackle and run for an additional 7 yards and pick up a first down on 3rd and 5. If a play is there to be made, the Giants need to make it. And that's some of the small things they haven't been doing this year. Against the Panthers in week number 4, Giants have an opportunity to tie the game. Panthers have some momentum. It's wrestled away by the Giants. They pick off Cam Newton. Very next play, they give it to David Wilson, who was out in this game. I told you the Giants have been decimated by injuries. David Wilson isn't playing, neck injury. They hand him the football. He goes around the left corner, off tackle, runs up the sideline, touchdown. Nice and easy, untouched, into the end zone, 17-yard touchdown run. Giants are back in the game, tied at 7. Or are they? You look down the field, there's a hanky holding, bring it back. They go backwards. They wind up giving up a sack and missing a field goal. Giants never come close to scoring in that football game. Again, they lose 38-0. Little things like that. Things that you might not think about. Things that you don't think twice about. Small, minute details cost you a football game. And that's what the Giants are doing right now. The attention to detail is lacking right now in New York. And for a stickler for attention like Tom Coughlin, that is something that you're not used to seeing from this Giants football team. They may be a lot of things in New York, but undisciplined. And at times it seems like they're not well coached. That's not something you're used to seeing from a Tom Coughlin coached New York Giants football team. But that's what you've been getting in the first 5 weeks of the season. A team that's undisciplined, a team that's making mistakes over and over and over again. Team that can't get out of their own way, a team that can't build off of the momentum that they build in games. Last week, they scored 14 unanswered points against Philadelphia to take the lead 21-19. They had all the momentum in the football game. They couldn't sustain it. They give the momentum back to the Eagles. They turn it over. Eli Manning, and it was a bad call. The officials missed a face mask on Eli Manning last week as he threw an interception that led to an Eagles touchdown that put the game basically out of reach for the Giants because they went down by 8 after that interception and the Eagles' subsequent touchdown. And they were still in the game, but the momentum had changed, and the Giants started to say to themselves, here we go again. And so, to avoid that kind of mentality in this game, the Giants must get off to a fast start. They must be in this game early on to give themselves a chance. If the Bears jump on them early, that mindset will start to creep in. Here we go again. And the Giants will fold up like a tent at a camping site. And they can't allow that to happen. They must be in this game from start to finish to give themselves a chance on the road in a hostile environment like Soldier Field on primetime on Thursday night. They got to have that mentality early on that we belong here. We can get it done. Let's go out, play for one another, and win this football game. We'll see. I don't see the Giants coming away with this one. When they finally do win, it'll probably be at home. But then again, when you're a bad football team, you never know when you're going to get your act together. And so we'll see what the Giants are able to do. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Once again, two teams that desperately want to get this win. Let's see who comes out on top. Giants on the road, Thursday Night Football versus the Chicago Bears. So that's the Thursday night preview. So you look at the quarter mark. And before we move on and look at that Week 6 slate of games, it's the quarter mark officially for me. A lot of people like to say the quarter mark is after Week 4. But for me, the quarter mark comes after Week 5 when every single team in the league has played 4 games. At least 4 games. And with the Panthers and the Green Bay Packers coming off of their Week 4 byes and coming back into play last week and completing their 4th game of the season, every team in the National Football League has now played at least 4 games. So now you got a chance to look at every team in the league in their first 4 games and say to yourself, and in most cases, teams have played 5, and you get to look and say, okay, who are the surprises of the league to this point? Who are the teams that have been Dennis Green teams? And what I mean by Dennis Green teams are, they are who we thought they were. And so who are those Dennis Green teams? Who are the teams that have surprised us to this point? Who are the teams that have exceeded our expectations? Not surprise teams, but are just a little better than maybe we would have thought. Who are the teams that kind of are disappointing? And who are the teams that flat out aren't getting it done, aren't the teams that you thought they were? Who are those teams? Who are the disappointing teams? So you've got about 5 categories. You've got Dennis Green teams, surprise teams, teams that are a little bit better than expected. Then you've got the teams that are so-so, but you expected them to be a little bit better. And then you've got the teams that are just flat out disappointing. let's start from the rear and get to the top. The disappointing teams, without a doubt, Giants, Steelers. You got to look at the Falcons and, of course, the Houston Texans. Those have to be the teams that jump off the page at you. Looking at the Steelers, their 0-3 or 4 start to the season, to me, it doesn't really say that much because I wasn't expecting a lot out of the Steelers this year. Now, did I expect them to be 0-4 at this point? Absolutely not. Probably around 2-2, maybe 1-3 if the ball didn't bounce their way. But 0-4, nah, didn't see that one coming. But, hey, when you're not that good of a football team and some of the things that you're being asked to do by your coaches don't fit the personality of this team, you're going to have some things not go in your favor. And so this team has been a little disappointing to start this season at 0-4. And so you look at the Steelers and they're not a good team. But for them to be 0-4, to be winless at this point going into week 6, very unexpected, very disappointing. Houston Texans, 2-3 on the season, which isn't that bad. But when you're the Texans, when you're a Super Bowl pick of many, when you're sniffing around, one of the better teams in the league year in, year out, 2-3 isn't going to get it done. And with the problems that they're having at the quarterback position, and I've already said this numerous times, Matt Schaub isn't the guy in Houston any longer. Your season is in peril right now. And so 2-3 in a division where the Indianapolis Colts, and we'll get to them in a second, is 4-1. And the Tennessee Titans, even though they don't have their leader in Jake Locker right now, they're 3-2. You're struggling right now. You look like a bad football team. And with all the talent that is on this team, 2-3, inexcusable. They're a very disappointing team to this point. You look at another disappointing team. Got to be the New York Giants. At 0-5, playing tonight on Thursday Night Football, you got to ask yourself, how is this team 0-5? How does this happen? You look at the injuries, you can point to that. You look at some of the undisciplined moments from this team, you look at that. But when it's all said and done, it's still hard to fathom the Giants being 0-5. And you look at their schedule and you say, hey, you should have won at least one game by now. They haven't been able to do so. And so the Giants are definitely, without a doubt, a very disappointing team to this point. You look at another disappointing team to start out this season. And who would have thought that after 5 games, the Atlanta Falcons would be 1-4. And of all of the teams in this disappointing category, to me, they have to be the most disappointing because there is no light at the end of this tunnel in Atlanta. At least if you're the Texans, you feel like, hey, Matt Schaub stinks, but we still got a shot. Even if it's not to win a Super Bowl, you've still got a shot to make the postseason. With the Atlanta Falcons, this thing is going down, and it's going down fast. And the light at the end of the tunnel isn't actually daylight. It's a train coming to smack the Atlanta Falcons square in the middle of their forehead, split their dome wide open. This thing is over in Atlanta. No more Julio Jones for the rest of the season. We talked about that on Tuesday, him possibly being gone for the year. Well, it's official. He's gone for the season. Foot surgery is necessary. He's done. Roddy White, probably going to miss some more game time. He came back from the ankle. It was starting to heal. Now he's got a hamstring problem. He's going to be out. So offensively, your 2 best playmakers outside of Tony Gonzalez, banged up. Gone. One's gone for the season. The other, you don't know when he'll be 100%, if he'll ever get to 100% this season. You look at this Falcons team and you look at them defensively, they're not good. And they're banged up. Sean Witherspoon has been out. Corey Bierman has been out. They haven't got a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They haven't stopped the run well enough, and they haven't stopped teams from scoring points. They're 1-4. And nothing says to me Atlanta Falcons are going to get better as the season progresses. This is a team that I said to start out the season would be 8-8. This team looks more like a 6-10 ball club. So for a team that was one play away, 1 quarter away, 1 game away from the Super Bowl, now we're talking about a team that might finish dead last in their own division. Who knows? We'll see. But this team has to be the most disappointing of all the teams in the National Football League to this point. You look at the so-so teams, the teams that maybe you expected a little bit more out of, but it's still early. But you're still not that impressed with what you've seen from these teams. Redskins, to me, jumps off the page in this group. They're at 1-3 right now with a chance to jump back into things in the NFC East. A win against the Cowboys on the road would be a huge statement and would go a long way toward the Redskins getting back on track in 2013. But when this season started, there was expectations of Super Bowl or bust in Washington. They felt like they had taken that step last year to win the division, to become a good football team, and now it seems like they are in reverse. And so maybe you had expectations of them being a lot better than 3-1. Many people had that record probably flipped upside down on its head. 3-1 is what they were supposed to be at this point, going into that bye week. At worst, 2-2. But to be 1-3, a lot of people aren't feeling the Redskins right now, and for good reason. They are definitely in this so-so category. You look at another team that's in this so-so category that maybe they should be better than what they are, but I thought that last year they overachieved. Minnesota Vikings. They're 1-3 right now, coming off of a bye. They're kind of in a dicey position at the quarterback position because they want Christian Ponder to work out, but all indications point to him not working out. Matt Castle is there as a backup and probably a nice, solid, reliable one, but he's not a starting caliber quarterback. He's not going to take you where you want to go. So they went out and got Josh Freeman. Well, he's not up to speed yet, and you don't know what you're going to get out of him. And so there's questions there. But that has absolutely nothing to do with the start to the season at 1-3. Some of it has to do with the quarterback position with Christian Ponder and him turning the football over, but Adrian Peterson has fumbled. This defense hasn't been as good as it was last year. They've given up points in every single matchup they've played in all season long. And so they're a little bit disappointing. But if you knew what you saw from this Vikings team last year, you knew that there was an opportunity for them to do exactly what they've done in this season, which is start 1-3. Because the quarterback situation was going to be a little unstable, because this defense is a hit or miss defense. You knew that the propensity for them to be 1-3 was going to be here. That's exactly what happened. So they're one of those so-so teams to start this season. What about the St. Louis Rams? A lot of people had expectations for this team. Maybe yours weren't as high as some other people, but the way they ended last season at 7-8-1, the way they played the 49ers, the way they tested the Seahawks, and hey, they beat both the Seahawks and the 49ers last year. You thought the Rams would be a little bit more competitive than they've been this season. Now, they've got 2 wins on the season, but you look at their wins, Arizona in week 1 at home and Jacksonville at home in week number 5. Not really big wins that get you excited about St. Louis Rams football. So maybe you had expectations for this team. Maybe you didn't. But you definitely looked at this team and thought, hey, they can be better this season. 2-3 really doesn't scream that much better. And when you look at the 2-3, 2-3 seems like it's not that bad. But when you look at those 3 losses, those are some really bad losses by the St. Louis Rams in blowout fashion. So they're a so-so team that maybe could be better. Maybe you expected them to be better. Maybe you didn't. But they're a so-so team. What about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? They could have been in the terrible column. They could have been in the very disappointing column. But really, did you expect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be that good? Probably not. Probably not. And so when you take a closer look at this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, you get what you pay for, essentially, with this football team. They have Greg Schiano in there, and he came in, and his job was to instill discipline. Well, sometimes when you go in with that military stylistic approach, it backfires. At first, that's exactly what this team needed in Tampa Bay. They needed discipline. They needed someone to come in with the iron fist, with that hammer, slam it down, get guys in line, and then he needed to ease on up and show the players that, hey, I do have a softer side. This isn't how I am all the time. I just needed to come in to let you know that, hey, I'm not your friend, I'm your coach. And there's no line with Greg Schiano. There isn't that, okay, I went too far line. And he seemed to have ruffled some feathers in Tampa Bay, and they're not producing. And probably the most frustrating part about this is that he's a disciplinary, yet this team has been anything but disciplined. Many mistakes, a lot of penalties, and that gets you an 0-4 start to the season. And so who expected the Buccaneers to be that good, though? Not me. So that's why they're in the so-so category, even though they're winless, even though they struggle, even though it's been a mess in Tampa Bay this year. I didn't expect the Buccaneers to be 3-1 or 4-0 at this point. 2-2, 1-3 was probably where they were supposed to be at this juncture of the season anyway. And they're 0-4, so they're in a so-so category. Let's go to the teams that have exceeded our expectations to this point. I got to start with the San Diego Chargers. Even though I didn't expect the Chargers to be great this season, heck, I expected them to be one of the worst teams in their division. I still expected them to be competitive, but not this competitive. I didn't expect Mike McCoy to come in and rejuvenate Phillip Rivers and this San Diego Chargers offensive attack this quickly. Danny Woodhead's addition and the health of Antonio Gates and everything offensively. This offensive line I thought was hot garbage a season ago. Well, they transformed this offensive line essentially in 1 year's time. Who saw that coming? And so Phillip Rivers has been able to work and not feel like he's had to win on his own. This defense is a little bit better than I thought they were going to be. They've still got deficiencies in that secondary, but this defense is better than I thought they was going to be. And the Chargers have played some solid football to this point. Now, their record still indicates that they're a so-so team at 2-3, but they've been competitive in every single game, and they've lost just all but one game by a touchdown or less. And they've been in every single game, and all of their games have come down to the final seconds with the exception of their Week 5 matchup versus the Oakland Raiders. You take that game out of the equation, every single one of the Chargers games have come down to the final seconds of the game. Whether they've won or they've lost, they're still a solid football team. And so I look at the San Diego Chargers, they've exceeded my expectations in this season to begin. You look at another team that has exceeded my expectations, the Detroit Lions. I really didn't know what to expect from the Lions coming into this season. But at 3-2 and a win on the road versus the Redskins, a win at home in convincing fashion versus the Chicago Bears, this Detroit Lions team looks to be a contender in the NFC North. And honestly, like I said, didn't really have high expectations for them, but I really didn't expect them to come out and start the season this well. If not for an injury to Reginald Bush and an injury to Megatron, this team could easily be 4-1, possibly 5-0. Who knows? But this Lions team is a lot better than I thought they would be at this juncture of the season. Hence, they are a team that has exceeded my expectations. You look at another team that has exceeded my expectations, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, look, this is not a really good football team. Do not let the 3-2 record fool you. But I made the mistake of ignoring records and not giving teams their just due. And it cost me my survivor pool. So these Cardinals are 3-2 for a reason. They play really good defense. They play great football at home. And they find ways to win. Say what you want about them. They're 3-2 on the season. Now, have they played the toughest competition in the world? Absolutely not. But you can only play and beat who they put in front of you. And that's what the Cardinals have done to this point. Carson Palmer has to stop turning the football over. If he can stop doing that, this could be a dangerous team because they play defense. They force turnovers. They're a dangerous group, especially when they're at home. And they're 3-2 right now. And the Arizona Cardinals are a dangerous bunch. And they're 3-2, and they've exceeded my expectations to this point. Another team that has exceeded my expectations to this point, the New York Jets. Wow. Didn't see them being 3-2 right now. And that win on Monday night, signature win for their 2013 season to this point. That might be their signature win of the season when it's all said and done. Either way, this is a football team that's playing better football than you, me, and anyone else around the league thought they would be playing at this time. I don't care if you're a Jets fan or not. You didn't expect this team to be 3-2 right now with the quarterback situation being the way it was coming into the season. Don't sit here and try to lie to me. I know when I see a lot. And this Jets team wasn't supposed to be 3-2, but they are. And this defense, Rex Ryan, imaginary tip of the cap. If Rex Ryan is your head coach, your defense is going to be solid. And that's what you're getting out of this Jets defense. Solid play week in, week out. They might not force a lot of turnovers, but you won't be converting third downs very often, and you won't be scoring a whole heck of a lot of points on this Jets football team. And that gives them a chance at the end of the game to win because the defense is keeping them in ball games, and this offense is coming through for them at critical times in the football game to help them win games. So Jets, a team that has exceeded my expectations at the quarter pole. You look at teams that are surprising now. And you got to start with the Kansas City Chiefs and the New Orleans Saints. Just lump these two in together because both of them are 5-0 on the season. Neither one of these teams were playoff teams a season ago. And I don't know what the expectations were for either one of these teams. I knew the Saints were going to be good. But 5-0 good at this point in the season, a road game against Chicago early in the season. You had Atlanta first game out of the gates. I don't know if I expected the Saints to be 5-0 right now. Okay, I know I didn't expect the Saints to be 5-0 right now. But they are. They're playing some exceptionally good football. And Drew Brees has it on absolute tilt right now. He's throwing the football all over the place. They're running the football. The most surprising part about this team, however, the defense. Rob Ryan has come in, implemented this 3-4 defense, and it has changed some things in New Orleans. And if they continue to play defense like this, you got to think they're a front runner to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC. I mean, that's how scary this team is if they're playing defense. So you look at that, and you look at the Chiefs. Wow. All the offseason changes, new head coach, new general manager, new quarterback, new everything. Same defense, same players on the defensive side of the football. You bring in a couple of players on the offensive side, and voila, 5-0 start. And this was a solid team last year, even though they were 2-14 and they weren't a good football team in terms of win-loss record. The amount of Pro Bowlers that they had spoke volumes to the amount of talent that was on this team. And all they lacked was a quarterback that could come in and right the ship. Now, look, Jamal Charles had to stop fumbling, and he has. And they needed to stop turning the football over, and they have. And they needed to stop with the penalties, and they have. And all of a sudden, it's a different football team. And they're 5-0, and no one expected that out of the gate for this team. And so those are two surprising teams to this point. You want to talk about another surprising team? How about the Miami Dolphins? Now, they've cooled off since their 3-0 start, but 3-2 at this juncture, this is a team that is playing with a lot of confidence. Now, again, 2 straight losses has simmered down a lot of the talk in Miami about them being a dominant football team and about them having the potential to win the AFC East. It's still there, but they've got some things to improve on, especially protecting quarterback Ryan Tannehill. He's the most sacked quarterback in the National Football League right now. They've got to find a way to protect him a little bit better, but if they can do that, they've got a really solid football team on their hands. Be nice if Cameron Wake could come back and get this defense back to where they were early in the season, but this is a talented group that can do some things, and they're a surprising team in this season to me thus far. You look at another surprising team. What about the Indianapolis Colts? Wow, 4-1 start, and they've changed the identity of this team. They went from primarily a dominant passing football team to a smash-mouth team that plays aggressive defense and is going to get after you defensively, looking to run the football a little bit more, go play action fake off of it, and kind of grind you out if they can do so. Last week against the Seattle Seahawks, they had to throw the football. They were behind. They still showed the ability to be able to reach down deep and throw the football if need be. But what they want to do is more closer to what they did against Jacksonville and what they did against San Francisco on the road in San Francisco, which is grind you into a pulp. Get after you defensively, strangle you defensively, don't give up points, and run the football, eat up time of possession, and grind you into oblivion. And they've done that to teams this season, and it's yielded them a 4-1 start to the season. And honestly, I thought that last year's 11-5 mark was a fluke, was a product of them having a soft schedule because they were a bad team the previous year. And I thought that now that they'll be stepping up the level of competition, they wouldn't be as good of a team this year. And I was wrong. They've played San Francisco on the road in San Francisco. They've played Seattle at home, and they've won both football games. They've played some tough teams this year, and they've gotten it done. They played Miami when the Dolphins were undefeated. They lost that football game, but they were in it, and they had an opportunity to win. They've played a tough schedule to this point, and they've played well. 4-1 speaks just to that point. So that's a surprising team. What about the team right under them in that division? The Tennessee Titans, surprising at 3-2. If not for the injury to Jake Locker, we could be talking about this team potentially being 4-1 at this point. And so be interesting to see how the next 3 or 4 weeks sees this Tennessee Titans team end up. Because if Ryan Fitzpatrick can steady the ship in the absence of Jake Locker, maybe the Titans could be one of those surprise teams that makes the postseason that wasn't in it last year and has an opportunity because they play defense. When you play defense, it gives you an opportunity every week. But with Locker on the shelf and Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm, and you're going to Seattle this week, this team is most likely going to be 3-3 after week 6. And now you got to start asking yourself, can they get back to their winning ways? And even when Locker comes back, can he flip that switch back on and get back to the football that he was playing before the injury? These are all questions we have no answer to right now, but I tell you this much. This Titans team is a surprise early on in the 2013 NFL season. So you look at the teams who we thought they were. Seattle Seahawks, 4-1. Really good football team, okay? They just lost their first game of the season. They're a good team, a really good team. And at home, as dominant as it gets. And if the Super Bowl were played in Seattle and they made it, game over, lights out. But this is the thing. They got to be able to go and win elsewhere. And that's what I want to see from this team. But they are who I thought they were. They're 4-1. They're a good football team, dominant at home, winning on the road. They're finding ways to win on the road. Dangerous football team, Seattle Seahawks. How about the Denver Broncos? What more can we say? What more can I say about the Denver Broncos? 5-0, over 44 points per game, dominant to this point. They got their first scare of the season last week against the Cowboys in Big D. But other than that, it's been absolute total domination week in, week out. And they're exactly what we thought they would be. Did we think they would be this dominant? Maybe, maybe not. But we knew they were a good football team that would be hard to stop once they got Wes Welker. We got a pleasant surprise from Julius Thomas, a.k.a. Juice. You got Decker, you got Thomas. You're getting some production out of the running game. This is a scary bunch. The most dangerous team in the league right now. They are who we thought they were. You look at another team that is who we thought they were going to be, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. Now, look, you look at the record, it's 3-2. They started out the season a little rough at 1-2, got to a crossroads in their season, and they've won 2 straight since that point. Now, did we expect them to get to 3-2 the way they got to it? No, but this is a good football team that's going to be around when it's all said and done. And look, they've played a brutal schedule as well. They've played the Packers. They've played the Seahawks in Seattle. They've played some tough teams, okay? They played the Indianapolis Colts at home and were demolished, okay? We're talking about 4-1 team in the Colts, 4-1 team in the Seattle Seahawks, 2-2 Packers team. So they've played some tough games. And they've been able to right the ship at 3-2. This is a good team. They are who we thought they were. They're going to be around when it's all said and done. And them and the Seattle Seahawks are going to duke it out for NFC West supremacy. You look at another team. They are who we thought they are. The New England Patriots. And I continuously, this is an annual thing, want to count these guys out. But it's Brady, it's Belichick, it's the New England Patriots, and they find a way to get it done. They're 4-1 on the season. And say what you want about how ugly their victories have been and how soft their schedule has been. They can only beat who the NFL puts in front of them, and that's what they've done to this point. Only losing in Week 5 for the first time to the Cincinnati Bengals at home. So the Bengals got them in Cincinnati, and they took care of business. So, and they're banged up. They're missing some pieces. And they've got a lot of young guys. They did that to themselves. No one feels bad for the Patriots in the position that they're in right now in terms of their offensive struggles and the youth on this team. They did that to themselves. When this youth comes around, however, and when Danny Amendola stays healthy and is productive, when Gronk comes back into the mix and he's dominant again, this Patriots offense is going to be a handful. And so they're a team that simply are who we thought they are and thought they were going to be. And so that's the way the NFL has shaped up early on in this season. A lot of surprising teams, a lot of disappointing teams, teams that are who we thought they were going to be. At the end of the day, we've only hit the quarter pole. We're in Week 6 now. A lot of interesting matchups coming up. A lot of good football to be played left in this season. No need to overreact if your team is 1-3 or 1-4 right now, or even 0-5 or 0-4 in some instances. No need to overreact yet. Still a lot of good football left to be played. If your team is winless at this point, maybe it is time for you to hit that emergency button. Maybe. I don't know if you want to panic yet. But if your division has a 5-0 or 4-1 team and you're winless, yeah, time for you to hit that button. But if your team is 0-5 like the Giants and your division 2-3 leader, hey, no need to panic quite yet. You still got time, even though that time in that hourglass is running out. You 1-4 right now, 1-3, you've got time, but you need to start stringing some wins together to get back to 500. If you're a team right now under 500 at the quarter mark, your goal is to get to 500. One game at a time. You can't play 2 or 3 or 4 games at once. One game at a time. But your first goal should be get back to 500. Any team not at 500 at this current time, your goal should be get to 500. Once you get back to 500, then you can start making lofty goals for your football team. But if you're not at 500, you're not doing anything. And so if your team is 1-3, 1-4, 0-3, 0-4, 0-5 right now, your primary goal should be, let's get back to even football. You can do that. You can do some things in this season. So that's going to do it for me here on the program today. No mental snack. Quick little plug. Visit the site, profootballcentral.com. Everything you could look for and more. There's podcasts. There's print articles. Everything you need football related, NFL related is on the site, profootballcentral.com. For myself and the rest of the profootballcentral.com staff, I thank you for joining me here on the program. Look forward to you joining me here on Tuesday when we come back, break down Week 6, talk about the Monday Night Football game, and look at what happened in the National Football League over the weekend that was, and kind of start to look forward to what's going on in week number 7. I'll see you back here. Enjoy the football tonight. And remember, we are profootballcentral.com. Have a good one. See you on Tuesday in week 7.